Welcome back to RunThrough TV. It is Ben Sheppard here, and today's guest is a brilliant one, a four-time Olympian. His name is Greg Searle. He is also an Olympic gold medalist. Yeah, it's definitely worth putting that in this introduction, isn't it? And represented Great Britain at London 2012 as well. He recently joined us at a race down in London through his work with charity Access Sport, and it was brilliant to have Greg down with us. By the way, get entered into our events at RunThrough.co.uk. I personally got loads out of this conversation. It was amazing reminiscing with Greg, hearing some stories from an illustrious and incredible career that spans a very long time. You'll hear all about it in this conversation. If you enjoy it, please do pop it a like, subscribe here to RunThrough TV as well.
My name's Greg Searle. I was an Olympic gold medalist rower. I competed at 4 Olympic Games, the first one when I was 20. Then I took 10 years out in the middle and came back for London 2012. And I guess competing in London 2012 was part of what connects me to the charity Access Sport, because Access Sport was all about, or is all about, giving kids the opportunities to play sport. And I guess in London, we had this wonderful vision to inspire a generation. And that's hard, really hard. And we need charities like Access Sport to help make that happen.
To start with then, I guess, what was it like to go to your first Olympics? That would obviously have been a dream to get there. What was it like going and representing Great Britain?
Yeah, it was a dream that I could see the steps towards it from quite early, I guess. I was lucky. I had a history teacher called Mr. Cross, and he rode with a bloke called Mr. Redgrave. And Mr. Redgrave obviously turned out to be Steve Redgrave and got 5 Olympic gold medals. And he won his first one with my history teacher. So it was pretty amazing to have this guy who seemed like a regular teacher at our school, but actually went to the Olympic Games and came back with a gold medal when I was 12, 13. And then that then gave me a good pathway to follow. I actually ended up rowing with him. By the time I was 19, I got into Great Britain 8 and rowed with him and my older brother. And then I got to then follow into Barcelona and then win gold rowing with my brother in Barcelona.
And what was it like getting to Barcelona and then winning that gold, but also sharing that moment with your brother as well?
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's a dreamlike event that you picture what the Olympic Games or the World Cup or whatever it would be like, and it really was as good as we possibly hoped. It was sunny, it was warm, it was Spain. Everywhere you looked in Spain, the Barcelona Olympics were probably a lot like the London Olympics, in that there were flags everywhere, all certainly across that whole Catalonia area. They loved it, and they were really kind of up for it. So to be wearing a tracksuit was good. To be an athlete was even better, and then to win a gold medal was just amazing. And it was a relatively small event in terms of the following. For me as a rower, it only really ever been followed by my friends and family, in a small group of people. Suddenly you win the Olympics and you're onto a totally different stage. But we didn't even realize that, really. We were still in Barcelona enjoying, watching other sports, going out. I was only 20. I didn't even come back to England to do any commercial activity. I went off on holiday straight from Barcelona because I was 20 and I was in a lovely place. So I kind of went to the south of France, hung out there for a week or two, and eventually came back to England. And I happened to have won a rowing race. And it was only really when I came back that I realized that this was quite a potentially life-changing event, really.
I was going to say, what is it like in those weeks after winning a gold medal? But I feel like you obviously were a young lad, you went away and you had fun. But when it actually hit you, what was that like?
Yeah, for me, it was a validation of a lot of work, a sort of affirmation that you go, as good as I ever dreamed I might be. You look at people and you think, oh, maybe I could do that, but I want to do that, and you get to do it. For me, there was no come down because I'd built to it steadily. We'd achieved it. I then enjoyed it, and then And then for me, the only pain really came when I wasn't able to do it again, because I loved it at 20, and I obviously wanted to carry on. And in every race I entered, I wanted to enjoy it just as much and have the same feelings. But the disappointing bit for me was then the other events when I wasn't able to win, rather than any sort of come down after it.
And is that kind of a difficult thing to deal with then, when you have been at the top and then, going into races thinking maybe you should win and you weren't able to do that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I raced 4 times the Olympics, and every single time I sat on the start line with 100% belief I was going to win. The only shocking bit comes when you don't actually win, because I only got to win once, and it was the first time. So I went into 3 other Olympic Games, finished 3rd, 4th, 3rd, and every time I really thought we were going to win. Really thought we believed we deserved to win. We'd done the work. I felt we were good enough, and yet, with about 10 seconds to go before the finish line, you realise you're probably not going to win this time, and that's pretty painful.
And how do you deal with after that, like questioning yourself, I'd imagine, and what else can I do in that last 10 seconds?
Yeah. So again, certainly for me, I suppose it certainly took me time to rationalize what had happened. So I might sort of go, a day later, there's nothing I could have done. Yeah. A week later, maybe if I'd done something a week before, I might have got a different impact. And then a year on, I'd say, maybe if I'd made some different choices a year earlier, then maybe I would have got a different result. But again, I sort of feel like I made choices and not sacrifices all of the time. For me, it was never a sacrifice to be an athlete. I loved it. I loved being an athlete when I was 20. I loved being an athlete when I was 40. I just had to make different choices in order to do that. And I look back on those choices and go, well, I could have done this, but then I might not have had that. So it's all just, for me, I'm able to sort of rationalize it and say, as a whole package, getting what I've got out of sport, I feel really, really satisfied with.
And obviously each Olympic Games would have been special in its own way, but when you found out that London 2012 was going to happen, that must have, for you, felt, very special, that you were going to be able to represent home at home.
Yeah, I was well into retirement when London got to host it. I'd competed in the Atlanta Olympics. I'd competed at the Sydney Olympics in 2000, where my wife was pregnant with our first child. I was just in normal life, really. And then in 2005, we got to host the Olympics, and it was announced, London is going to host. And I thought, wow, well, I'll be 40 when that happens. They're going to give out rowing gold medals on the 2nd of August. And I'd won on the 2nd of August, 92, age 20. And I could do the maths and go, I could win on the 2nd of August, age 40. That would be a pretty cool story, to be 20 to 40, to get a gold medal, one and then the other, and that'd be the ends of a career. But I didn't really do an awful lot with it. I was busy. I was working, young family. I was taking my kids to swimming, to football, to cricket, doing the things that you do really as a dad in their 30s. And then as London got closer, the excitement started to build. And it was 3 years out that I decided I wanted to really be part of London, because I knew how good it would be. And I was in reasonably decent shape, and thought, well, if I train hard, if I work at this, I can compete and I can win.
How was the preparation different then? Because obviously from a young lad that's 20 winning his first goal to somebody with a family and young kids, that's a very different life. Yeah,
no, it is a different life, and the honest truth is, I enjoyed it more second time round. Okay, I think I was like a sort of mature student going back to university. You kind of enjoy it a bit more, You're like, youth is wasted on the young sort of thing, Enjoy this, because it's really special to put on shorts every morning, to go to a gym, to roll around on a crash mat, stretching your hamstrings. And, as long as you get your hamstrings stretched out, then you'll probably be able to do what you need to do at work. That's very different to having to get an early train, go to a stressful meeting. And, I loved it, that I trained each day in the gym, went rowing virtually every day went rowing, and went on the rowing machine virtually every day. it was quite. Those are nice things to do. Those are all nice things to do when you're 40, and I got to do that every day. And then I got to go away to lovely places around the world and compete with a really great bunch of people. And I like I say, I enjoyed it. It was painful, but it was a choice. I knew it was going to be hard, and it was choosing a harder path that gave better rewards. And I was happy with the way it all worked, really.
And you must have felt very rewarded, using that word from you just then, when you walked in to Olympic Park for the first time with Team GB, and that atmosphere was unbelievable. Yeah, no, hugely. I think it was 542 athletes that competed for Great Britain in the Olympics, then the Paralympics after that. But no, to wear that tracksuit and feel like one of Team GB when we were all building up to this thing, we were all excited about, getting a ticket, organising a street party, buying some Team GB Stella McCartney merch, and I got given suitcases full of it, and I got to go and compete and got into venues, and then enjoyed, I suppose the whole tension and excitement of being there and then competing, which is very, very special. I think from the outside as well, it obviously brought the country together from somebody that was watching it. From the inside, did it feel like that as well? Oh, very much so, yeah. There was a big difference in the way the team was in 2012 compared to what it had been like in the 90s. In the 90s, there was pre-lottery funding, and we were even separate clubs, let alone separate sports. Okay. So I didn't really know many athletes from many other sports. Healthy competition between boats, and then healthy competition between sports, sometimes bordering on unhealthy, probably. You fast forward to London 2012, and we genuinely felt like we were all in it together. The country was behind us. People really wanted us to do well. People cared whether we did well. People wore our shirts, all that sort of stuff, which, in the 90s, you didn't really go out and buy Olympic team kit. In 96, the whole of Team GB got one gold medal. And, there was a bit of an inquest, why was the Olympic team doing so badly? And yet in 2012, it's like, you couldn't move for Olympic gold medalists. Sports Personality of the Year was a sea of success, and it was lovely to be part of that wave because, I enjoy it. I enjoy it all. I'm excited that there's been an amazing cricket match has happened during the night tonight, and that puts a spring in my stride. For all of us, we have a spring in our stride when these big events are going on, and to be, in the centre of that, and the team for that was just amazing. And moving on then to Access Sport, who you're involved with and are one of our partners, or our charity partner at the Olympic 10K and half this weekend. How did you first get involved with Access Sport? Yeah, so I've been involved with Access Sport for probably about 15 years now. So I have children now who are 19 and 21, but I guess, wind that back to when I first got involved with Access Sport, they were 6 and 8 or something like that. And I could see that I was able to give them opportunities to play sport. I could see the benefits that I was personally getting and the benefits they're getting from sport in terms of feeling in control of something in their lives, having a group of people around them who you have a really special level of trust and friendship with, and doing something where when you play a sport, you get to feel good, you get immediate feedback, you do something and you feel good about it. And if you do something that's not so good, you get challenged about it. And I think those are really important kind of values that sport can provide. And so many young people don't get that opportunity either, well, for many reasons, but it could be, I guess, from a social point of view, that it's not around them, they're not given the access and the opportunity to play. It could be because of disability, because they come to a club and they might not feel welcome, they might not feel like they fit in. So for me, to find a charity that sat alongside that vision of inspiring a generation and say, yeah, well, we're going to inspire this generation, but what do we do that actually helps them?
and Access Sport helps young people play sport, and I thought that was fantastic.
I think sport is so important just for core values, isn't it? Is that something that you see as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the lessons we learn in sport are very useful lessons that we learn in life. And yeah, how you define yourself, who you are. Often people think about the experiences they had in sport, what values we get from playing sport, then carry on into other areas of our lives, whether that's following rules, respecting officials, respecting people in authority, respecting your peers, respecting yourself. Those things are all pretty important in sport, and those things are pretty important in life, and it's often hard to know where you're going to pick those things up. And sport gives a huge opportunity to do that, as well as also being fun, being enjoyable. We live in times that aren't easy, and where you can spend a lot of time struggling, and life can be tough. And so if you can go out and do something which just puts a smile on your face, and you enjoy, and other people appreciate what you're doing in real time, then that's pretty special.
And having the career that you had, it must feel quite special sometimes being able to share sport with people, because sometimes people don't quite understand what sport can bring. So for you, having it impacted your life amazingly over the years, that must feel quite special to share that.
Yeah, no, it does. I get to, as I've done with you, relive some of the highlights of my life, and they've been involved. Sport has been at the heart of them, and it's a privilege to be able to do that. And even just doing that makes me feel good, because it reminds me of some of the things I've overcome that have been difficult, put in perspective, which were hard, or really enjoyed when I was doing them. And I think if I share a bit of my story, it helps other people think about their own and what have been some of the great moments they've had and enjoyed, and how did they feel then, how are they acting then, and how can they recapture some of that in their everyday lives now. And that could even be at work, that you could identify a good group of people, celebrate each other's success, make good connections socially, as well as just doing the job you're doing, which I think are all the things that go with the best teams you're in. And so if you can take those ideas and try and find that at work, or in your social groups, that makes life a lot more enjoyable, I think.
In terms of Access Sport, if somebody is watching this or listening to this and thinking about wanting to get involved with Access Sport, what would be the easiest way to do that?
Yeah, so Access Sport is about helping volunteers to run sports clubs. So what you'll find is a lot of people, the sports even that I talk about, that my kids did, football and cricket and rowing, rugby, those sports are often really well managed and organised. And there's a club that's been established for years. If you're looking at a club which might be, for disability basketball, if you're looking for a club that might be in a harder to reach group, in an area where there isn't an obvious playing field, and a volunteer wants to run that club, then Access Sport can help those volunteers to actually make that club work. It's not easy to put in place all of the, the child protection stuff, to put in place some sort of a funding model, some sort of a model that allows you to actually demonstrate your growth, your engaging the local community. And again, that's where Access Sport comes in to help those volunteers to run those clubs. In terms of how you would get involved, it's the old obvious answer, I guess. Go and look at the website, look up Access Sport, make some contacts, talk to anyone you can see at the event who's wearing an Access Sport t-shirt. But I guess going to a wider audience, no, it's just to check it out on the website.